right? Now coming to the next topic, like object. Okay, object in TypeScript. Okay, anywhere object is same only. So like in JavaScript also object is an object, and JavaScript and TypeScript also object is the same. Like whenever we are discussing about the object oriented programming language, object oriented programming. Okay, so in the initial classes of introduction part of JavaScript, we have seen that JavaScript is a structural programming, and it will follow some objects and classes as well. So we will achieve the inheritance also by using the prototype. It will also achieving the object oriented programmism. Okay, here the JavaScript, in addition, superset of, actually, so the TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. That's why the TypeScript will follow object oriented concepts. Okay, further, base things for object oriented programming language is object and classes. Whatever the data we are representing, whatever the operations we are representing, entire things will be in terms of objects and classes. Okay, there might be any conceptual things like so data encapsulation is there, inheritance is there. Okay, so abstraction is there, polymorphism is there. Like that, there are multiple types. Okay, and also we have seen that there are number of ways to create an object in the JavaScript. So guys, remember one thing, we are explicitly dealing with the Angular. Okay, so whatever the things we have to use, so the syntactically following the TypeScript, but internally TypeScript is going to be converting and using entire JavaScript only. So whatever the concepts you have learned in the JavaScript, that will be very helpful here, that will be used there. Okay, so now, so what exactly the content is required, even if you know the Java will be a programming language, object oriented programming language. If you want to learn pure Java, so that will be entire different. Okay, so what is required for to other frameworks to learn the Java is what some object oriented concepts are required, and some initial basic points are required. So basic concepts are required. Like this only, here also we have something like the TypeScript language. We are going to discuss briefly what we require to learn the Angular, what we required for the Angular implementation. Okay, for that I am giving you so base structures and examples, and going forward one by one. So the conceptually we will learn, and after that dig into so Angular. If you want to learn TypeScript programming language itself, it will be again another way, and there should be a lot of things to discuss. Okay, but what is required for our application development by using the Angular, that we are going to see now. Okay, now, so what is an object? Okay, in the object oriented programming language, what is an object? Okay, so it is a base thing and a primary thing in the object oriented principle. Okay, so we can say object is a physical entity. So like that, so we have a class. Inside that class there are number of students. The student, we can call it as an object. The table, we can call it as an object. Class consists of an object. Okay, so the objects might be any real-time entity or physical entity, whatever we want to call, that we can call. But whereas coming to the class, okay, again immediately we are going to discuss about the class only. Whereas coming to the class is a blueprint of an object. Class contain the objects within it. Okay, so it is a like a blueprint or else template of an object. Okay, so the class is containing, the class is going to be discussed with the help of objects and object references. Okay, forget about the class now. The class object is an physical entity, so whereas real world entity we can say, so in which the object is containing properties. Okay, properties, the properties we can call like this. Properties are like, suppose an example of an object is like student. So we have seen in the previous classes the student object. Okay, the student is having the properties. What are the properties of the student? So we have the student name, okay, student age, and student height, student ID, so student location. So like that, there are so many properties are available. Okay, so in the object, it is mainly containing the properties. And another thing is methods. Object contains properties and methods. Methods are more like action, activities, so doing things, so with respect to the object. Okay, so now if you can see, so in the generic format, so a student can drink water. Okay, so it is also, we can call it as a method. Okay, so walk, Okay, student can walk because it is an activity. So like that, so we can assume anything. So but whereas when we are coming to the normal discussion, so get data, that means we are getting the data of the student by using this method. Okay, so like this, get data and set some data. Okay, so like that, so we have to follow so these things inside the object should contains only two things, those are properties and methods. So the properties are like, so more whatever the data we are going to take, that data will be defined with the input properties. And methods, so whatever the activities, whatever the events, whatever the logics we are performing, that should be written in the object methods. Okay, now how we are defining the objects in the JavaScript? Okay, like where, morely we are working on constants, right, in the JavaScript, where some student object, how we are defining the name of the object equal to, so then, so within the curly brackets, flower brackets, we have to provide the, so props and methods, that is properties and methods. So what are the properties of the student? Same thing, same syntax as what we have followed in the previous class, the same thing it will be applied here. Okay, so methods are like operations, like activities, so doing things. Okay, like events, operations, calculation part, which is applied on top of the properties. Okay, now the student is an object. Okay, the student object is containing name. Okay, name we are specifying the data, no, so name we have to assign. Okay, how we are assigning the data? Like this, key value pair based the data we are assigning. Suppose name is like Krishna. Okay, now if I'm taking age is a number format of data, so that should be defined as it is. Okay, 23. And also if you take any other property, location is a type of string, so that should be written in the string format, HYD. Okay, like this you can put the data inside a, like this you can put the data inside a object. Okay, these are the properties. So as we discussed already, so we have to put the commas for separating the object values. Now if you want to take the method, so how we can write the method? Get data. Okay, like this we can write, but rather we have to specify it is a function, right? It is a function. So whatever the parameters we have to provide, parameters we can provide, and then we can pass the methods or whatever the calculations, whatever the things you want to provide, so that is written. So some data we have to return. Okay, return some sample. So like this the syntax and structure will be there. Okay, so now we will see the better implementation. Okay, so actual implementation, how we are going to work with the objects are nothing but here the real world entity, the physical entity of a class. So objects, on top of objects we are working with the properties and methods. Properties are like, so normal whatever the properties of the particular object, and methods are the activities, operations which we are performing on the object. Okay, so now in the same thing, so we are also going to use in TypeScript also, same thing we are going to apply as a object. Okay, so now in the previous thing we have seen that data types, different data types with the static typing. Okay, even if you can remove this, that will also valid. So this we can call it as an dynamic typing. This we can call it as an dynamic typing. See, I am partially I'm giving the static typing, and the dynamic typing I am giving. Okay, so now if you can see, so that will be compiled and executed. CLS, same thing. If you want to compile the program, first I have to use the tsc, so demo.ts TypeScript will I have to execute. If there are no errors, then it will print an empty line. Okay, if there are any errors, then it will give some error description there. Now I will print that, so which will be executed happily. Static typing and dynamic typing both will works similar only, but whenever we are using that TypeScript, so better to use static typing. Okay, because that is there is an advantage of static typing. So to avoid the unnecessary errors while runtime, so it will take the static typing. Okay, so that you have to remember. Okay, now I will take one single object. So the object I am taking, suppose whatever the variable let constant you want to define, that you can define student where student here object no, so equal to in curly braces I have to take the properties. The properties again what you want to do, so you have to specify the properties. Okay, student name I'm giving like this, the student name will be Krishna, and yes I am giving that is 28. Okay, the separators are commas. Now yes location I'm giving HYD. Okay, so like this I can take, and there are number of ways to create an object, right? This is also one of the ways. So this way we are usually following in the TypeScript. This is the called what TypeScript. I mean whatever the object literal type we are using, no object literals we are using, so that literal pattern we are using. Okay, so object literal pattern we are using to create an object, not using any new constructor methods and all those things. So this object literal method we are following for to create an object. Okay, now if it is a method, so to get the data, get the data, which type of data? Student data. Here you have to provide the function inside that, so you have to give that. So is that valid thing? Get data, something like it's expecting something like, okay, what it should expect actually. So whenever it is their function get data, okay, the function properties we have specified, so we have to end that. One second. See, here I did a mistake. It is also considered as a property, right? Okay, right. So get data. I'm just formatting that one. Okay, right. It's in a format. Okay. Now I have to put one log here. Log. Okay. Console.log inside object method. Okay. Now this is a way of defining an object and how to execute an object, how to call an object properties, how we are going to execute. Now if I want to call s name, if I want to print s name, what I'm going to do? Log. Okay, log with the help of that object student dot s name. Same process whatever we have followed in the JavaScript, so in the same manner we have to follow here. Yes, yes, and here yes location, same thing. If you can see, I'm not calling any method now, so only simply the object properties I'm going to use here. First I have to compile this one. For compilation, TypeScript file I need to do the tsc, and after successful compilation it will generate the demo.js file. So the demo.js file again by using the name, so I'm printing like this I have to call. So this is a way of accessing the methods, I mean way of accessing the object properties. Now I want to access the method. How I am accessing the methods? In the same manner by using the object reference only. So but whereas you want to pass the method name, so the method name is get data, so that should be a method, right? That method you have to pass as a method. Okay, now if you come to compilation, the compilation will done, empty line it will be printing, and after that we will execute that by using the node.js. See, inside an object method it will be called. Okay, now I will return some data here. So the data return what I have to return? Yes name. You can, oh sorry. Okay, yes name. See, so there should be some errors you are getting. What is s name? Okay, and then yes is. Okay, what these properties are actually? So if you want to call these properties, we have followed something like this dot s name, this dot ses, like that. No, so it will indicating that, so it is a current property, current object property. So this dot s name, this dot s, and then so this dot s location. Yes, location, like this I have to specify. Okay, I'm just returning, so same as usual. So whether I'm calling that method or not. So the above properties I'm accessing. See, Krishna HYD 28, these are all printed in a single line when I call this method. Okay. If there are any parameters, suppose S location I have added, S ID I need to add here. Okay. S ID. Okay. So that ID I have to write here. Oh, sorry. Yes, ID. I'm just printing. Okay, what will be returning? Compilation done. So when we are calling this method, so there should be a parameter. For that, we have to provide the value. So that is argument is mandatory. So the argument should be provided here. Cleared. Sorry, previous one is executing now. Demo.ts compiled successfully and node demo.js. See here, 10t is added at last, so that will be added. So that will be passed as an argument. Like this we can call. So these things we have already seen. So anyhow, so these things are same in JavaScript and TypeScript. So that's why if you know the JavaScript, TypeScript is very easy. Okay, but only the compilation process is different. First we have to convert that into JavaScript, and then again it will be converting into the executable format of data. Okay, so this is how the process of JavaScript and TypeScript execution. And from the next class onwards, we will discuss about the classes and inheritance. So polymorphism. So these kind of things